Hi, my name is Loretta Adamu, and I'm the head of programs at She Leads Africa, and I am also the project manager for Slave Festival 2020, and I'm excited to welcome you to the Slave Festival team. Slave Festival Joburg is happening on the 7th of March, and that's why we need your help as a volunteer. So over this training, going to try and keep it as short as possible because I'm mindful of your time and your internet data. And so I'm going to go through the intro, which is basically a description of what this is about. I've just gone through the intro. And then I'm going to describe Slave Festival, give you a brief history of what Slave Festival is about, where Slave Festival started from, where Slave Festival is now, and also give you an overview of what happens at Slave Festival. And then I'll go over the roles document, which is basically a broken down checklist of what you as a volunteer get to do at every single section. So I would encourage that you go over the volunteer roles during your spare time. I will send that to you via email. And also I would then share important info. So all in all, this should be really short. Hopefully it wouldn't get up to 20 minutes, and I'm trying to keep it as close to 50 minutes as possible. So let's go. Slave Festival. Slave Festival is a celebration of innovation, culture, and technology for young African women. It's literally the largest celebration of young African women doing amazing things on the continent. Slave Festival has a really brief history, and Johannesburg is actually a part of that history, as it's going to be the fourth Slave Festival ever. Slave Festival has happened in 2017, 2018, and 2019, all in Lagos. And I'm going to show you a few pictures that give you sort of like an overview of the vibe at Slave Festival. So we try to make sure that the event is a mix of enjoyment and learning. This is something that I will touch on more once I start going over the activities. And also I would put in links to videos from Slave Festival 2017, 2018, and 2019. That way it will give you a better sense of how Slave Festival works, what it usually looks like, what the vibe is like. So these overview videos are basically 1 minute, quite short as well, that just tells you a brief story of how Slave Festival works. So these are also pictures from Slave Festival 2018 and Slave Festival 2019. For Slave Festival 2020, we're going to need you. Yes, you are volunteer, which is why I'm also welcoming you to the team again in the middle of the video. Okay, so we're going to need you because Slave Festival 2020 is going to have all of this going on. We're going to have 1,500 guests. We're going to have 50 speakers, 25 one-on-one coaching sessions, 30 vendors, 8 masterclasses. There's going to be live music. There's going to be speed networking. There will be food tastings, beauty makeovers. Basically, the experience for Slave Festival 2020 in Joburg is for people to come in, have a lot of fun through the entire day, and then also pick up a few lessons in different areas, which is why we're going to have panel sessions, master classes, and something we call the mobile talk. I'll give you a brief explanation about what all of these sections are in the next slide. So, what are you going to expect at Slave Festival? This is basically what happens at Slave Festival. The Slave Festival main stage is big. That's why it's called the main stage. It has 300 attendees. So far, the only section at Slave Festival with the most amount of attendees. So there are like 300 people in the seating area with a main stage, and it's going to have panel sessions running through the entire day. So the event starts at 11 a.m. and begins with a networking activity, and then the panel sessions begin about an hour later, and you have speakers from different sectors. You have speakers from the corporate industry, you have speakers from the lifestyle world, you have speakers who spent their entire career in the corporate industry, you have speakers who built their businesses from scratch, or who started their career in the corporate world and then built their businesses. We have an activist panel, we have a healing circle. So this place has a lot of action. Typically, a panel has around 3 to 4 speakers, and each panel lasts for 45 minutes. And there's always a 15-minute break in between every panel session at the main stage with 300 people. The next thing that happens at Slave Festival is master classes. I'm not going to follow the sequence that it is on this sheet. I'm just going to go over it section by section to make sure that everybody gets the full idea. Master classes are smaller sessions that are facilitated by one instructor. So it's literally a classroom, one teacher, a topic, 100 attendees seated away. So for Slave Festival, I would remind you that there are sections. So this means that the main stage area is separate from the masterclass area. So what happens is people will be moving around a lot and they would need your help. They would have questions. So the master classes, there'll be 8 master classes throughout the day, 45 minutes, 15 minutes in between, one facilitator, several topics. I will also share the schedule with you, which will show you basically what's happening at each particular slot and what each masterclass is about, which is going to help you know what's happening. Also, a good way to learn about what's happening at Slave Festival is to follow us on Instagram at Slave Festival, and you would find that details about these masterclasses are in the comment section of our speaker post. Later on in the training, I'm going to give a bunch of assignments that would require you to go to the Slave Festival page to find out information about the event. So I'm looking forward to your answers. So we're going to move on to Mogul Talks. Mogul Talks are intimate group sessions, typically with only 10 people and one facilitator. The idea is that this small group will have a discussion. These types of sessions are perfect for networking. They are perfect for people who need more in-depth answers to their questions because it means that they are going to be able to talk to his facilitator one-on-one. So this session isn't teaching as much as it is a discussion where people at the event get to help each other, and then the discussion is facilitated by a speaker from Slave Festival. And usually these discussions happen in several different tables. So the Mogul Talks section will feature 5 separate tables where different discussions will be happening throughout the event. So say we have table 1, we would have 10 people in the first hour, and then in the next hour, another set of 10 people will go to table 1. And then on table 2, the same thing will be happening, 3, 4, and 5, all throughout the Mogul Talk section. So we're then going to move on to the vendor marketplace, which is basically the area where the vendors come to showcase their wares and people can check them out. And we'll move on to sponsor activations, which are another really important part of the event. So sponsor activations are basically the areas that we've assigned to our sponsors for them to engage and interact with attendees. Sponsor activations are a mix of a lot of activities. Some sponsor activations include a panel session. Other sponsor activations are just activities that are happening, like a screening or a makeover or trying out products or just basically talking to them. So sponsor activations are really exciting and people love them. In fact, one of the pictures from the deck comes from a sponsor activation. I'm just going to go back to it and so you can see. So some sponsor activations look like this. It's just an area for people to take nice pictures, interact with the product, and then move on. So that's essentially what happens at activations. And then the final area is the networking activities, which is basically the things that people do, the things that we get people to do to get them to connect with each other. So a lot of it is structured and designed by us. So you will have a set of instructions to follow. So this, essentially, your job in this area would just be to make sure that people are talking to each other and that people are interacting. Then we're going to move on to the roles at Slave Festival. What are you going to do at Slave Festival? What would you specifically be doing regardless of where you're assigned? So the roles at Slave Festival are slightly different from these sections. This is because there's some roles that don't have a section assigned to them. So once I go over the roles document, you're going to get a bit more context about what I'm talking about. So for the roles, you have the main stage volunteer. Also, something to note and keep in mind something to take note of and to keep in mind for the roles document, I will be sending it to you, of course, and everyone is required to skim through all of the roles. There are several, there are about 8, and then you would go over your particular role and make sure that you memorize your checklist and know what it is you're expected to do. When I send you the role document, I will also assign a section to you. So essentially, if for instance, I assign you to the main stage, I expect you to go through the checklist for the main stage volunteer and then skim through the others just in case. And also, while I assign you a role, I will also assign you to a manager on the day. Your manager on the day will be the SLA team member who is in charge of that area and who makes decisions for you. So there are lots of instances that would come up, a lot of things that would happen that are not covered in the checklist, and you need somebody to give you some information or insight. You go to your section manager. An introduction will be done with your section manager, and then you guys can converse and communicate even before the event. So let's go to the outline here. Okay. So what are you doing as a main stage volunteer? You're basically familiarizing yourself with the entire schedule. This is something that cuts across everybody. Familiarize yourself with the main stage schedule. You create a contact list for the speakers and get familiar with them. So one of your duties as a main stage volunteer is that you would have, you would liaise with speakers and also attendees. So it's important to get that information. Also, the first volunteer training, we really don't go in depth into the different roles because we leave that for the in-person training, which happens the week of the event, where we're literally going to run through everybody's role and make sure that you understand it. So I'm just going to skim through as it is and just give you a great, like an overview of what each person will be doing in each section. So essentially, everybody's job involves speaker management and attendee management to some extent. Go through the checklist and see what you're supposed to do. If you're assigned to speaker management, that means that you would be in charge of speakers in the speakers lounge. So that's one of the things that happens at Slave Festival that requires a volunteer that isn't necessarily in the sections I previously described. So we need someone in the speakers lounge, giving them information, answering their questions, making sure that they are online. Making sure that they are on time for their sessions, their master classes, their mobile talks, making sure that they know where these things are happening. Then we have the masterclass volunteer, who is basically the one in charge of everything that happens in the masterclass. Make sure everything is on time, make sure attendees are in the masterclass, make sure that the speaker is on time. Then we have the mobile talk volunteer, who basically does the same thing for the mobile talk section. Then we have the check-in volunteer, something that is really important that I didn't mention. So for the check-in volunteer, your major duty would be to make sure that people are checked in properly when they enter. So the idea behind being a check-in volunteer is that you can keep two things in mind. Make sure that people are not waiting too long on the line, because that messes with the experience, and part of our job at Slave Festival is to make sure that everyone has a great experience. So make sure that people are not waiting too long on the line, making sure that while people are waiting, they're engaged, and making sure that everything in that area is going smoothly. The check-in area typically has a manager who you'll be taking instructions from, and you'll be assigned to a desk, and you have all the tools that you need to make sure that you're successful in that role. And then we have the volunteer who is usually assigned to the sponsors. So with a volunteer who's assigned to the sponsors, usually what happens is you're assigned to the activation area, and your job is basically to act as a communication funnel between your section manager and the sponsors. So if they have any requests, if they have any complaints, you relay them to your manager and help solve them. Then we have the vendor volunteers, who is basically doing the same thing as the sponsor volunteer, but for vendors. And then we have the social media volunteer. I hope a lot of people are interested in this role, because mostly your job would be to make sure that a lot of all these exciting and fun things that happen at Slave Festival is captured and posted on our Instagram pages, so that people know that Slave Festival is happening, it's an interesting event, it's an exciting event that they want to attend. Then we have the photo section volunteer, and typically what the photo section is just an area that people can take really amazing pictures. And what happens is that what we've noticed is that people get shy about that. So what happens is Sometimes they're not really sure what kind of pictures they want to take. So it's your job to sort of nudge them, tell them to take group photos, help them out if they want, make sure they're using the cards, make sure that they're tagging us, and make sure that they're using the hashtag for the event. And that's essentially the last of our roles for Slay Festival. This was really fast, and I'm happy because so essentially that's it. Those are the roles at Slay Festival. The main aim of the volunteer training is to make sure that you're prepared, and most of my job would be to answer all the questions that you have. I know we have a WhatsApp group that we're already part of. Feel free to talk to each other, talk to me. If you can't ask a question in the group, message me privately, I will answer. And also just to make sure that for Slay Festival, the biggest thing that you need to do your job is information, and any questions that you have will be answered by me. It's also helpful that you do your own background research on the event. So follow the Instagram page, check out the speakers, check out the activities, check out what sponsors are coming and what they'll be doing. All of these things will help you stay engaged and keep you prepared. And now I'm just going to share important info that you're going to need as a volunteer at Slay Festival. So one of the first information that you need as a volunteer is the venue. Yes. So this event will be happening at One Fox, which is on Alexander Street in Newtown in Johannesburg. I'm just going to keep the screen here, and it's basically the venue for. It's going to be I'm not sure if it's going to be the venue for the volunteer training. However, it's going to be the venue for the event. Event starts around 10, finishes around 8, 9. Starts with networking, has panel sessions, masterclasses, mobile talks, activations, sponsors, running from 11 up until 6 or 7. And then we have a nighttime party with the DJ, which is basically when everybody gets to let their hair down and enjoy. And we hope that you're going to be with us up until that time. And the other information that you need is just basically a checklist of what you need on the day. This is something I'm still going to go over in the final training. So you need pens to circle out things on the map. You need a waist pack or a backpack or a small bag, really. Something that's comfortable and easy to carry around. You need comfortable clothing, and you will also get t-shirts from SLA. I will send a message requesting for your t-shirt sizes, and I will bring your t-shirts that you have on the day. So we're all going to be wearing the same t-shirt. So whatever else that you're wearing, just to make sure it matches. There isn't really much of a dress code, just wear the t-shirt. And this t-shirt will be handed over to you at the final volunteer training before the event. And then I'm going to send you a few assignments for after this training. So what we try to do is make things interesting and interactive with the quiz. And the assignment is essentially going to be is, how well do you know Slay Festival? That's what it's going to be. So that's the entire theme. It will have a bunch of questions. I expect everyone to fully participate because it's a good way and an easy way for us to get all the information that we need. And then also I would need your everyone's help with their ideas on collecting feedback, because one of the things that we do at Slay Festival is find out how people like the event, how much fun they are having, areas that we need to improve, what we need to change, and then work on those. So your job would not just be to make sure attendees have a good time. It would also be, in a way, part of your job to collect feedback and find out what's going on, how people feel about the several different sections. And that's it. That's the end. I don't know how long this is. I can't see the timer. Oh yeah, I can see it. Well, a little under 20 minutes, and it's like 90 minutes and 4 seconds now. So I'm going to try and wrap this up in under 20 minutes. And if you're not doing that already, follow us on social media at Shillits Africa, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And also follow Slay Festival as well. And thank you. Again, everything you need will be in the description box or in a follow-up email I'm going to send. And look forward to getting your questions, hearing from you, and seeing you guys slay at Slay Festival. Thank you. Bye.